There were a bunch of fun things mentioned at the front of the chapter about things that make you feel like you would live forever. And things like watching the sunrise, watching the sunset, staring up the starry skies above. And it is kind of cool watching the sunrise. There have been times in my life where I've been awake far, far before dawn, and the sky was inky black with stars. And then slowly it changed. And you notice the color of the sky changing first. It goes from a dark black, almost, it goes from, well, midnight blue, let's say, which is almost black. And then it starts getting brighter and brighter. And then, depending on the clouds and the weather, the color of the sky changes. It can go reddish pink. It could just keep getting paler and paler blue. And so the sky brightens and lightens, and that happens before the sun rises. And you don't really see the sun, you just start seeing light. And you start seeing the things around you more. And everything goes from being sort of a black and white, and then colors start appearing. So you might notice the red of a flower, green of a leaf. And things get brighter and brighter and brighter until finally the sun pokes up over the horizon and you see. And it's much the same way at dusk when the sun's setting, because the sun slowly sinking down in the hills and everything around sort of picks up this golden color. In filmmaking, they called it the golden hour, the hour just before sunset, where the sun's long rays are cutting through the atmosphere at a shallow angle. So all the blue kind of fades away, and you're left with this sort of reddish yellow tint. And then the sun goes down below the horizon and things get darker. And the bright blue of the sky slowly starts fading. And it gets a darker blue and a darker blue. And you start to see the stars appear. First, the bright stars. So you would have, well, the bright stars, Betelgeuse, Algol, Rigel, Ceres, depending on the time of year. All of those actually depend on the time of year. But, you'll see these bright stars appear. And Venus, you might see Venus depending on where Venus is, because sometimes Venus is on one side of the sun or the other side of the sun. So Venus goes around the sun really close. And which means that if you're looking at it from Earth, Venus will always be within 20 something degrees of the sun. So it'll either be ahead of the sun, behind the sun, in front of the sun, the other side of the sun. So when Venus is in front of the sun, it's often the last star that disappears, because Venus is so big and so bright, relatively speaking. It's a very bright planet. A lot of clouds over top of it, which are white from the top. So, you have all these clouds over Venus. So it acts like this great mirror. And so it's one of the last stars to disappear when the sun comes up. And in that instance, it's called the morning star. Or if it's slightly behind the sun, when the sun sets, it's one of the first ones to appear because, as I said, it is just so bright. Ceres is another one, which is bright and often can be a morning or evening star. Now, Ceres orbits outside of the Earth's orbit, and because it's outside, it can be in any direction. Well, any direction on the ecliptic, which is the plane of the sun. So the sun's tilted like this. The sun doesn't go straight up and down, it kind of goes at an angle. And so Ceres will be someplace on that plane. So, but it's really kind of cool because as you sit there, the sky gets darker and darker and darker. And the stars start appearing. The stars are always there. If you're down in a deep, deep well that blocks out the sun and you look up at the sky will look black because all of the waves from the sun, don't hit. It gets, because you're deep down in a well, it looks black looking up, and you can see the stars. But anyway, so it's a really sort of magical thing because you don't necessarily expect the sun to just, you don't really notice it until all of a sudden it's there. It's one of those things where it's like, it happens slowly, it happens slowly, it happens slowly. So Colin saw the tree with the broken branch. And the tree with the broken branch is what his mother fell off and died because of. Which makes it really sad. And Mary and Dickon both knew that the tree was going to be there and that Colin would at some point see the tree. And they were just hoping that they would never have to answer any questions about it, because that would be really, really awkward. And so fortunately, the robin showed up just in time. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's magic, maybe it's serendipity. No, serendipity is luck, but maybe it's just a coincidence that, the robin showed up just in time and Colin was distracted from the tree that Mary and Dickon didn't want to talk about and didn't really have a good plan of distraction. But Dickon's comment about, with the way the roses are growing over it, it will be the most beautiful thing in the garden, which is kind of a nice metaphor because the tree is dead, just like Colin's mother. But at the same time, it's transformed because it's covered with the roses and it's more beautiful. So, sometimes death is needed to make way for something more beautiful. And then Ben Weatherstaff showed up, the title character of this chapter. And we've met Ben before. And Ben is grumpy, as well he should be. And he's grumpy. And he was looking over the wall on top of a ladder. So when Mary and Dickon were first exploring the garden, they were like, somebody's been in here doing work. So it's quite possible that what Ben has been doing for the past 10 years, because he didn't know the door, he didn't know the key, is he climbs up on top of a ladder, sits on top of the wall, pulls the ladder up one side, down the other, then climbs down the ladder, does the gardening, and reverses the process, where he climbs up the ladder, pulls the ladder up, puts the ladder down, climbs down the ladder. And because, you can't go and just leave a ladder because a ladder would be missing. And if you were to leave the ladder on the outside, you run the risk of another gardener coming along going, hey, what's this ladder? And either taking it away or climbing up to look and see what's going on the top side. So Ben must have been doing this for several years, and as he's getting older, it becomes difficult to climb on top of a ladder, climb from the ladder on top of the wall, pull the ladder all the way up, put the ladder down on the other side, being careful not to drop it, because if you drop it, then you're out of luck, because then you don't have a ladder to climb down, and you just kind of have to jump and hope you don't twist an ankle, break a leg, snap your neck. So he had this whole complicated process of ladder up, ladder down, him down, and then reversing it. So, Colin is like, okay, we're going to just bring you in the normal way, because he knows that the gig is up, that Ben knows what's going on, and Ben would be in a position to cause real trouble here, because the moment he finds it, he can tell the father, and the father will just be like, tear down the wall, burn the garden, salt the earth. And so nobody wants that. But now Ben Weatherstaff is the fourth person in on the secret of the garden. Fifth, if you count the robin who showed everybody there. But so Ben will be the fourth person in on the garden. So it's very difficult to keep a secret from lots and lots of people. It just tends to explode. And they're all really lucky that it's Ben who caught it, because he's probably been the one tending the garden, because he was awful suspicious with Mary way back when you first met him and she was asking questions.